Black Earth offers a full suite of humic solutions, from high-purity granules to powder, liquid, and soluble formulations, all powered by pure Humulite. Trusted by growers worldwide from one of the world's rarest Humulite reserves. Grow stronger with the power of Black Earth Humulite. Learn more from Mind to Market by visiting blackearth.com.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. And welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Wednesday edition of the show. Thanks so much, everybody, for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday. And, of course, shout out to everybody listening out there on the RealAg Radio podcast as well. I got to catch a flight right after this show, so I am not sure if I'll be able to do a news segment for you here today, so I do apologize for that. We will get back to that tomorrow. But we got a full show for you here today, lots to discuss. We've got Kelvin Heppner of RealAgriculture with us here today to talk about what are the takeaways from that Trump and Carney meeting at the White House yesterday, and what are the next steps. We've got Mark Alberts from BASF to talk about what's going on with InVigor and some of their fall lineup. We've got Darren Anderson from Vive Crop Protection to talk about some big news. FCC making a big investment in Vive Crop Protection. And we've got Brian Voth from Intellifarm here for a markets update as well. Now, if you have any feedback, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Do not forget to sign up for the RealAg Hockey Pool brought to you by Cantera Seeds and Alliance Seed. You can do that by going to realagriculture.com/hockey. Please do that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Monthly prizes and a big grand prize as well that does involve the playoffs, so stay tuned for that. Let's take a break. When we come back, we've got Kelvin Heppner standing by right after this. It's now time for a product spotlight. We're talking right now to Tim Dara, canola technical strategy lead for Bayer. As growers are thinking about hybrid selection for this upcoming year, what's compelling in the DeKalb portfolio?
I mentioned DK401TL. That's a special product, I'll be honest. It yields fantastic. It offers the dual trait in terms of TrueFlex and LibertyLink, so it gives a lot of flexibility for growers. It just has a lot of great fits across Western Canada. We're also offering a new hybrid this year on the TrueFlex side of things, DK904TF, which is the highest yielding glyphosate-resistant hybrid that we've ever tested. It has a great opportunity for guys in those areas that are looking for that fit. We're right now in the middle of that seed selling season, and we're in the middle of our DeKalb Harvest Rewards offer. In that offer, growers stand to save up to $75 a bag on canola when they book by October 31st. And that's for all DeKalb hybrids, so the entire lineup's available for that offer. And if growers are interested about that and want to learn more, they can talk to their rep or talk to their agronomist, or they can go to DeKalbRewards.ca and find out more about it.
If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today.
You've always farmed smart. What if you had more insight? Your Co-op Grow team member can help you collect, analyze, and interpret data so you can make the best decisions for your farm. Plan for success in 2026. Talk to your Co-op Grow team today. Okay, let's talk about this big meeting yesterday at the White House. I'm not sure how we would describe it. Friendly, a bit of a love-in, encouraging if you're looking for a smoother relationship between Canada and the U.S. Joining us is Real Agriculture's Kelvin Heppner. Hey, Kelvin, how are we doing?
Doing well here, Shaun. The sun is shining, and yeah, like you said, I think in the big picture, nobody in Canada is worse off coming out of the Carney-Trump meeting yesterday, and of course that's always a risk when leaders from other countries meet at the White House. There's been some examples of things going off the rails, and I think it was the opposite yesterday. Yeah, I talked yesterday on the show about how you never know, right? So Zelensky's first time to the White House didn't go very well. It's actually now a verb. It's being Zelensky'd.
But the second time went really well. And so I was worried a little bit, could we potentially see a bit of a flip? First time went well, second time not so much, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Both leaders seem to be laughing and incredibly comfortable with each other. The Canadian mainstream news reaction I found kind of fascinating in the sense that CTV seemed very disappointed there wasn't some sort of deal, whereas CBC seemed a little bit more positive about the fact that nothing bad happened. I guess at the end of the day, how do you see it?
I think I'm more along the lines of this was good for Canada, certainly not for the specific sectors that have been hit by tariffs and are suffering from tariffs. If they were hoping to see some relief yesterday, there wasn't any imminent relief announced yesterday. And so that includes some of our agricultural manufacturers that are currently facing steep steel tariffs on exports into the U.S. or other manufacturers and others in the lumber and steel sectors, certainly looking for relief yesterday and didn't get it. But overall Canadian economy, like you said, it really looked like Trump enjoys being around Carney. He admires Carney. He referred to him several times as a great man and was asked about it. And one of the questions was, why haven't you reached a deal if you believe Carney is this great man? And Trump said, because I want to be a great man too, which implied like he wants to be like Carney almost, it sounded like. And so they were both really relaxed, like you said, joking around, and sure looked like this was not intense or that type of meeting where there was a lot of tension in the room as to what could happen. And like you said, and I think this is why CTV's coverage is the way it is, that's not necessarily politically popular in Canada, especially in central parts of Canada, I'd say, where it's the elbows up Carney that won the election back in spring, and this is not elbows up. And I think in many ways Carney has realized what's maybe popular in Canada and what's popular in mainstream news outlets like CTV is maybe not what's best in Canada's interest, at least on the surface when you're visiting the White House. It's Thanksgiving here in Canada this next weekend, and I saw one person say that Carney did a good job of buttering the turkey in the Oval Office.
Okay, that's good. That is quite good. It is kind of fascinating how Carney has shifted here. He really, and listen, this is politics, right? So we know that there's a lot of things that are said during a campaign that aren't the reality once you become the government. And the relationship with the U.S. is probably a really good example of that in Carney's situation. I had a friend yesterday say to me that they were very uncomfortable with how well Carney seems to get along with President Trump. This person is not a Trump fan whatsoever. They want to see Carney, be more of that elbows up kind of leader. That is fine, but that's maybe not what's economically best for Canada. And being, so economically, that's his resume, economics, former head of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. I think Carney knows that. And it's not a case of does he like Trump or not, or is Trump like him? It's is there a deal? And in some of the verbiage yesterday, that was actually the encouraging part. I thought President Trump was incredibly transparent when he said, we do have some conflict. We want an auto industry. They want an auto industry. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to be happy with the deal. I like, and you can't take everything that a leader says at face value, but to me, that was very encouraging compared to other things that we have heard from the president.
Yeah, and again, both of these leaders have spent time in the corporate world and maybe are treating their roles in more of a corporate fashion than traditional political leaders do. Trump certainly does, transactional in everything he does, and Carney is bringing that Goldman Sachs background as well to or Wall Street, Bay Street background to the prime minister's job. And I think this looked like kind of two CEOs that are working on a deal and see potential for both sides. And so, yeah, like you said, that's maybe counter to the negative sentiment and the feeling of the U.S. is attacking Canada and that type of thing that certainly has us on our defensive here across Canada over the last half year. But like you said, Trump said, I think we'll end up with a deal that Canadians will like, which is a positive sign. But there again was more talk about more of a bilateral negotiation, not multilateral as NAFTA or CUSMA, USMCA has been, which creates maybe more leverage for the U.S. versus Canada in that negotiation. And we continue to see more emphasis on these sectoral negotiations, sector-specific, even company-specific in some cases, where there's dominant companies within a sector, and that's something that Trump has shown he likes to do. And I'm not sure that's in Canada's interest to go down that path, but it might be inevitable, and that might be something that Carney is maybe you could say compromising on. And if there is criticism for Carney in having this positive relationship, it's that he's shown willingness to give up things without publicly
quickly
having evidence of gain something in return. Who knows what the alternate scenario is behind the scenes? Maybe he knew of some other threat that was on the horizon that we don't know about publicly from the White House. But at least in public, it doesn't look like some of these concessions have gained much.
We're thinking alike here. He's given up. The digital services tax was just to get the Americans back to the table.
The counter tariffs.
Yeah, the counter tariffs, another example. So my perception of that is moving quick. He wants to put this behind him. He somehow, remember he had a deadline for having this all figured out even before President Trump's deadline was. Like, he seems to be very, very trying to act quickly, and if I give stuff up, we're going to come to the table. But as I said in yesterday's show, one of the things that I have heard from people that have talked to some of the negotiators is that they're having a hard time getting the Americans to say, here's what we want. And so Canada's giving things up without actually understanding exactly where this is all kind of headed. The bilateral thing, having a bilateral between Canada and the U.S. is one thing, but having like 6 or 8 different sort of sections of that, or different agreements, if we want to put it that way, not to get too technical, that becomes administrative. Compliance becomes a challenge. Hard for people to know what exactly what the rules are. Very costly. I really hope they're able to avoid that. I think Carney's visit to Mexico was maybe a little bit more strategic, even more so than we thought prior to this visit this past Monday. All in all, though, I think the question still remains. The relationship seems good, but where do we go from here? And there is no doubt. I would be shocked. I literally would be amazed if we do not have a very, very rocky road in front of us. Although I agree that there is a deal is going to happen because all 3 countries cannot afford to not have it. But this may be drawn out a little bit, and Carney may be disappointed that this is going to be some sort of speedy conclusion. That's just my thought.
Yeah, and to me, it's much cheaper to, again, use that analogy, butter up somebody than it is to spend billions of dollars or damage your economy. And so it's much more efficient for Carney to go into the White House and be friendly and be this person that Trump admires and use that to Canada's advantage than it is to go in there combative and elbows up and throw in body checks, if to continue the hockey analogy, than to do that down the road. That'll happen down the road eventually if rubber hits the road. And as long as, this is part of the issue with the U.S., the way the decisions are being made, everything's running through the White House. And if Trump is friendly with Carney, that bodes well for Canada. It's the people around Trump that are going to push those policies that make the road rough ahead for Canada in terms of addressing the trade deficit or trying to bring more manufacturing to the U.S. I think those are the things that will cause real hardship for Canada, or are already in the manufacturing and steel sectors, the auto sector. But that's coming from the people around Trump, I think, more than it is coming from Trump at this point when it comes to the Canada-U.S. relationship.
Yeah, and I had an audience member reach out and say, like, the USMCA CUSMA agreement's different because there's already an agreement in place, and so they're going to want to go through with a fine-tooth comb. And you could take that thread, but they had agreement with Japan as well, right? And they found some sort of secondary version to that. So if the U.S. takes that sort of approach, that also bodes well for Canada. And of course, we're not in that negotiating room, so we're purely speculating on some of the alternatives, some of the potential paths here. But
one other observation is there was no talk about timelines yesterday, other than that July 1st USMCA review deadline. And that's something that throughout the summer, whenever Carney and Trump met at the G7 or other places, they gave timelines or deadlines, 2 weeks, next month, that kind of thing, where we'd have a deal or we'd like to have some high-level economic and security agreement or framework, that type of thing. Yesterday, there was no mention of any specifics. They said that people had been assigned, top staff and top people had been assigned to working on some of these issues. People like Jameson Greer and Howard Lutnick and Dominic LeBlanc on the Canadian side have been assigned to dealing with some of the issues around steel tariffs and that type of thing. But they didn't give any deadlines for coming to resolution. And so I think that also shows that this is getting kicked down the road. And I think that bodes well for the Canadian economy, other than, again, those sectors that are already under immense pressure from those sectoral tariffs.
Yeah, obviously autos, steel and aluminum, softwood lumber, those are examples of industries that are really under more pressure than, say, agriculture is on this file at this very current moment. That was a potential outcome going into this meeting. There was talk about potential relief on the steel side of things in exchange for more broad-based tariffs, similar to the way the UK arrangement or framework was set up. Yeah. And then agriculture may have been implicated in that, and we would have in agriculture felt, hang on, you're giving up tariffs on the auto sector in exchange for tariffs on our agricultural exports. That would have created that same old conflict there where we seem to have the federal government picking winners and losers. And so that was a possible scenario coming out of this meeting, and we didn't see that. So, yeah, like you said, agricultural exports largely continue to be tariff exempt under the CUSMA USMCA terms. Yeah. And I still believe that many Americans see a fight with China as having purpose, fight with Canada not in the same ballpark, and I think eventually the administration comes to that conclusion economically. Well, you can only have so many fish or hooks in the water, so to speak. Hey, Kelvin, before I let you go, Blue Jays tonight, Game 4. Not encouraging last night, post third inning. What are your thoughts on tonight? Well, I think they're still in it. I wouldn't write it off, but this bullpen game scenario with starting with bullpen pitchers and leaning on the bullpen, that leads to a lot of decisions by the manager that you can potentially make wrong decisions on. And so a little nervous about that side of things, but certainly they have the bats. They do have the bullpen pitching that can pull it off. But it certainly took a turn yesterday in terms of and I'm curious whether the Canada-U.S. factor, there was some booing of the Canadian anthem I saw yesterday at the game. And so we haven't seen that played up, but I think Carney and Trump joked about it a little bit, that we were coming down. Canadians are coming down to watch ball right now because of the baseball playoffs. You pulling Bieber in the fifth inning like they did? Yeah, I think I don't think that was a mistake. He was getting hit. There were a lot of hard hit balls in play off of the starter yesterday. I guess it wasn't even the fifth inning. It was probably it was maybe the fourth inning. It was pretty early, but he was only at 47 pitches. But hey, man, this has been a lot of fun. Appreciate the breakdown, and we'll talk to you on Friday. Okay. Yep. Thanks, Shaun. Take care. Great stuff. That is Kelvin Heppner, Real Agriculture. Okay, we've got more coming up here on RealAg Radio. We come back right after this.
Important update from FMC. Precision Pack DB878 Pro herbicide is now registered for use in front of oats, along with spring wheat, durum, winter wheat, and barley. DB878 Pro herbicide delivers proven kochia control, including herbicide-resistant biotypes, plus extended control of cleavers, dandelion, narrow-leaved hawksbeard, and volunteer canola. And with Precision Pack herbicide customization, you get the acres you need. No leftovers, no wasted time. See your local participating retailer today.
RealAg Radio is Canada's only daily radio show focused on agriculture. Get expert advice on Agronomic Monday. Tuesdays and Wednesdays will cover a broad range of issues. Thursday we'll hear from farmers across the country on the Farmer Rapid Fire. And we'll wrap things up Fridays with the RealAg Issues panel with Kelvin Heppner and Lindsay Smith. Join us Monday through Friday at 4:30 Eastern. And don't forget about the replay at 7 in the morning on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM.
Ever hear that good things come to those who wait? Well, we think it's more like great rewards come to those who book their InVigor hybrid canola early. Through the InVigor Book and Buy grower program, you could earn a $30 per bag rebate when you book all your InVigor needs by November 14th. Speak with your local retailer about eligible hybrids. Terms and conditions apply. Book early. come out ahead.
Welcome back to RealAg Radio. It's now time for a product spotlight with BASF and InVigor Hybrid Canola. And we're joined right now by Mark Alberts, who's the Senior Brand Manager for InVigor. Hey, Mark, how are we doing?
Doing really good, Shaun. Thanks a lot for having me today. Really excited to be here and chat.
Yeah, it's always great to chat with you. So we got some exciting stuff here with the InVigor Book and Buy offer. So growers are always looking for ways to get ahead. Walk us through this InVigor Book and Buy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we all know growers, retails, that planning ahead really is where the next season and success does start, whether that's seed, other input decisions, equipment on the farm. We all know that living in the farm community. So the InVigor Book and Buy offers really that opportunity for farmers and retails that are looking to plan ahead, make their hybrid canola decisions for next year, and getting rewarded for doing so by November 14th, 2025. So we want to enable everyone to have those good, solid crop planning decisions or discussions, and really encourage folks to do so with the InVigor lineup and save big next year.
So I guess why now? Why did you create this program?
Yeah, absolutely. Planning is becoming more important than ever. We know with the commodity markets, everything that the pressures on farm, planning is really important. And it's also a very competitive market out there in the canola seed business. So we also believe we have one of the strongest InVigor hybrid lineups ever, which whether you're in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, you're going to find a hybrid that's going to fit your farm. And really with the InVigor Book and Buy offer, a value point as well that's going to suit most any farmer. So it's a competitive market. We understand the importance of planning early, and we want to put some dollars in place there for farmers doing so. Which
InVigor hybrids are eligible?
Yeah, so the eligible InVigor hybrids are going to vary by province. So growers, keep in mind where you're located, and please search out InVigorBookandBuy.ca for which InVigor hybrids in the lineup are going to be right for you. The eligible hybrids have all been selected based on their agronomic fit. As I mentioned before, the lineup is as strong as it's ever been. So whether you're looking for an earlier maturing hybrid like InVigor L330 PC, or a later maturing big yielder like the new InVigor L355 PC, we want to put those options in front of growers. So not every hybrid on the lineup is going to be eligible. So we do encourage growers to talk to their local retail, have that discussion about what's going to fit for you. And hey, even if it's 1, 2, or even 3 hybrids from the InVigor lineup, multiple hybrids is always a great thing to balance risk and the high performance of InVigor across the farm.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of this a little bit. So I'm obviously there's an incentive here to book early. Just to talk about from the growers, obviously you're getting a high-end hybrid, but what are some of the other things that go with this program?
For sure, Shaun. It's a really simple offer. So number one, again, growers, visit InVigorBookandBuy.ca and figure out which eligible hybrids in the lineup are going to fit for you. Number 2, visit your retail by November 14th, 2025 and book your intentions. Number 3, go back to that same retail and purchase your InVigor hybrids in 2026 when you're ready to go, and you'll be eligible for a $30 per bag rebate that would get paid back to you in the fall of 2026. So it's very simple. You just need to talk to your local retail. They're the folks that are going to help answer all the key questions, help you understand which hybrids can fit for you. So really simply visit them by November 14th. I actually encourage before November 14th. And have a chat about your crop plans for 2026.
Hey, great stuff. So for growers who haven't booked yet but are thinking about it, there's still time. Great opportunity.
There's lots of time. We're into early October, so I'll just a quick plug for InVigorResults.ca. If you're looking for some of those local proof points closest to your farm of which hybrids in the InVigor lineup might have a good fit, have a look at that. If it's an eligible one and is performing well in your area, based on real-time replicated data that we're pulling off right now, there's lots of ways that you can kind of validate some of that and learn more.
Yeah, that InVigorResults.ca, those new results going in there all the time. And there's a lot of info there across the hybrid lineup, not just InVigor, but competitors, and you can really look at how things did in your area. Some awesome data there for sure. Also, we also heard InVigorBookandBuy.ca. So, hey, Mark, thanks so much for joining us here today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Shaun.
Great stuff. Hey, we'll be right back on RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147, right after this.
Soil health is under pressure, but real solutions start below the surface. Black Earth offers a full suite of humic solutions, from high-purity granules to powder, liquid, and soluble formulations, all powered by pure Humulite. Formulated for performance, backed by consistency, trusted by growers worldwide from one of the world's rarest reserves. Grow stronger with the power of Black Earth Humulite. Learn more from Mine to Market at blackearth.com.
Peter Johnson at WheatPete, RealAgriculture.com. I'm the host of The Word, and I love doing The Word. I love the questions. I love the challenges. I love having to apply agronomics to all over the globe and areas outside of my normal jurisdiction. Also, I love the feedback the most, where growers challenge me, tell me about their plot results, help me to learn. The Word, absolutely the best part of my day.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Well, it's pretty exciting news this week for a company that is in the crop protection industry, a made-in-Canada company, as a matter of fact. Joining us right now is the CEO of Vive Crop Protection. It is Darren Anderson. Darren, how are we doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Shaun?
I'm doing pretty good. Okay, so before we get into the big news that came out this week, introduce the audience if they have not heard of Vive. What do you do?
Sure. So we're a crop protection manufacturer, and what we really focus on is using a really interesting science called nanotechnology to help us take existing active ingredients that growers have known and trusted for years and help those products be more effective, be better, be able to be used in brand new ways in order to bring new innovative tools to growers across North America.
And a lot of the founded in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
The research program is in Canada. The early days commercialization was a lot in the United States, but that's looking to change. You're looking to make a bigger play in the Canadian market.
Well, that's correct. So we've got one product in the Canadian market today, but we have a pipeline in total for the entire North American area. We've got about 30 products, and the majority of those are products that we also plan to bring to Canada. We're hoping to be able to bring a significant product to wheat and canola growers next year, a fungicide that we're really quite excited about that's being tested on about 2,000 acres this year in Western Canada, and we're just waiting for regulatory approval to be able to launch that next year.
Yeah, it's always great to have competition in the market. Big announcement this week. Talk about the finance or the seeding round, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had an oversubscribed funding round that we announced, over $10 million US. So for a Canadian audience, it's about 14 million Canadian. And it was, we brought in a new capital partner as part of that financing round, FCC Capital. Really thrilled to have them on board. And then we had some of our existing investors support the funding round as well. Your audience may not know this, but it's definitely a challenging time to raise capital in the capital markets. And we're just thrilled to have the support and be able to continue to invest in that innovation pipeline and the exciting new products that we have coming to market over the next 4 or 5 years. So,
Darren, when we're talking about 10 million US, that's a lot of money. But when we're talking about the crop protection sector, you probably could spend that quite quickly. So what does this money mean for you, and how does it get used?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I mean, our business is really about innovation. It's about taking those active ingredients, using our technology to make better versions of those products, and then bringing those to market. But you're absolutely right. There's a lot of investment that goes into that process. Not as much as if you're discovering a brand new active ingredient. It's one of the reasons why we have 30 products that we have under different stages of development, but it does still take some time. And so if you look at where those dollars get invested, they get invested in the groundbreaking science. As you noted earlier, we've got an R&D facility in Toronto, about 14,000 square feet, some of the best scientists in Canada that will develop the products, the chemical part of the process. And then those get tested in the field. The regulatory data that's required to get regulatory approval is generated. And that whole process takes about 4 years. And so from the moment we start investing in a new product for a specific type of grower, specific crop, specific need, it takes us about 4 years and a significant amount of capital to develop that product all the way through. And that's really what this innovation's being aimed at, or this investment's being aimed at, I should say.
Yeah, so for our American audience who possibly has more exposure to Vive's portfolio, where in what crop types and regions are you having the most success?
Yeah, so we're primarily in broadacre row crops. So focus crops for us in the U.S., corn, soybean, sugar beets, peanuts, cotton, potatoes, but we're also in some specialty as well. We have products that are used on mint and blueberries and a variety of other more specialty crops as well. One of the really unique things about the technology is that it allows us to really optimize the performance of these products in a lot of really interesting and useful ways. Sometimes that's really important for like a sugar beet grower that wants to be able to apply a product with their in-furrow fertilizer. Sometimes it's about optimizing how a product behaves when it's being applied foliarly so that it's more rain-fast or more effective. And sometimes it's about developing products that can be applied through like an irrigation system and actually move with the water through the soil in order to be able to target pests that are below the soil surface. So pretty broad cross-section of technology, which also means that we go after a lot of different crops.
Yeah, I guess what's the biggest challenge right now in your sector here right now, Darren? I know there's great opportunities, but there's also some challenges. What are some of the things you're working on?
Yeah, so we'll actually be introducing a couple of new products next year that are designed to be applied through irrigation systems. We think there's some really unique opportunity to really effectively spoon feed the crop with a crop protection product that helps deal with a challenge on the farm through irrigation. We think there's some really interesting opportunities there. We've been doing a fair bit of work on biological products, but used in a pretty unique way. So in a lot of cases, the problem with a lot of the biologicals that are out there is that they're not super consistent in terms of how they perform, and they can be more expensive, or they might need to be used at a higher use rate in order for them to really be effective. And that's meant that a lot of growers have had poorer experiences with biologicals. So we've really been focused on hybrids, where you combine a biological with like an old synthetic chemical product, so that you get that baseline performance of the synthetic, and then you get the resistance management or the alternate modes of action or the biostimulant plant growth effects associated with having a biological present as well. So we have a portfolio of products we've been developing in that area that we think are pretty unique and pretty unique in North American agriculture.
Okay, so when we fertilize through a pivot, we call it fertigate. Mm-hmm. If we do put a crop protection product through irrigation, what do we call that?
Chemigation, typically.
Chemigation.
Yeah.
We're learning here today on the program. I like it. I like it. It's when you look at Vive's approach to the market, are you unique? Or are there others approaching it the same way? Just kind of, there's a lot of talk right now in the crop protection sector. Like we have branded, we have generics. There's lots of ways to approach things differently. Talk about where you live.
Yeah, it's a great point, Shaun. We really do think we're creating a new part of the market because, as you said, like historically, you'll typically have the branded guys, the guys that do all the discovery work, right? And they'll discover a new molecule and they'll bring it to market and they'll try to apply it to as many acres as they can because it costs so much to bring that new active ingredient to market. The other side, you'll get the generics that really focus on just doing things as low cost as possible. We really are in that kind of in-between space where we're taking off-patent active ingredients or biologicals that have some really unique properties and are good products, but where we can make them better with our technology and allow those to be used in a new way or be more effective when they're being used on the farm or help do a better job at controlling a disease or a pest. And that creates a really unique opportunity for us to create more value, but also, unlike the big guys that are trying to discover a new active ingredient, it doesn't take us 10, 15 years to get a new chemistry to market. We can get a grower a new innovation, something that helps make their lives better a heck of a lot faster in 4 years. And so we really do view ourselves as more like a post-patent proprietary or that kind of innovative, value-added segment, not a generic, but also not the discovery guys either.
Yeah, and I guess that process of making a product better because you're looking at more Like, why aren't the majors doing that? Why is there an opening here for a Vive to do this?
Yeah, so some of that goes back to the economic incentives of the majors. So if you've taken 13 years and $300 million to bring a new product to market, which is, I think, the most recent metrics, then you want to be able to apply that as broadly as you can. You want to be able to apply it on the massive opportunities, in the US, the 90 million acres of corn and soybeans. And you're not necessarily going to be looking at, okay, how can I take that product, which is a very good product, but actually make a better version of it for a 2 million acre opportunity or a 1 million acre opportunity. For us, because we can innovate, because it costs us less to bring a new product to market and it doesn't take us as long, we can really innovate and build products for segments that might otherwise just be neglected, right? And where there isn't that much innovation. And in the context of the Canadian market, I would argue the Canadian market is well served in some ways, but I would argue having products that are specifically built for Canada and for Canadian growers doesn't happen as often as it should. And that's an area where we can really bring the fact that we're, as you said earlier, Canadian homegrown innovation and develop those products for those Canadian growers.
Yeah, we've had the chance to meet and talk in person on several occasions, and I really enjoy and appreciate the Vive story and the innovation around it and the ingenuity. I think it's very, very cool. So I encourage all of our audience to check out Vive Crop Protection. Darren, before we wrap up, $10 million investment. What excites you most about this?
Honestly, it's having the new capital partner, having FCC Capital as a partner. I think what they're doing in the context of Canadian innovation just has the potential to be transformative. We're really excited about being able to bring some awesome new products to market with their support, and they've been a fantastic partner to work with so far. So really excited to have them on board and excited to be able to continue to grow and scale this awesome business. We're aiming for this to be a Canadian anchor firm, and as you mentioned on the front end, we're really Canada's most successful R&D based crop protection company, and we're excited to continue to build here.
Cool stuff. Making stuff happen in both Canada and the United States. That is Darren Anderson. He is CEO of Vive Crop Protection. Darren, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thanks, Shaun.
Cool stuff. Hey, we'll be right back on RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147, right after this. Built on over 100 years of seed innovation and unwavering commitment to farmers, Pioneer 100 Series canola hybrids deliver a step change in yield performance and agronomic traits. This isn't just better canola, it's different canola. Pioneer 100 Series. Contact your local Pioneer sales representative or visit pioneer.com/100 series to learn more today.
Whether you're running a farm operation, in a career within an organization, starting your own business, looking for your dream job, operating a company in agri-food, or want to hone your overall life skills, this conference is for you. Celebrating over 10 years of bringing women in ag and food together, join the Advancing Women Conference in Niagara Falls on November 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Visit advancingwomenconference.ca for more information and to register.
Hey, sports fans, the RealAg Hockey Pool is back for the 25-26 NHL season, brought to you by Cantera Seeds and Alliance Seed. You just got to visit realagriculture.com/hockey to register your team and make your picks before October 10th. See you on the ice. And I know our next guest is me just disappointed we don't have an NBA pool going. Maybe something for future years. But it is Brian Voth of Intellifarm. How are we doing today, Brian?
I'm good, Shaun. How are you?
Doing good. You like hockey, though, don't you?
I don't mind watching hockey. It's not a priority for me, and I guess being from close to Winnipeg, when the Jets came back, it was like, well, by default, I guess I'll be a Jets fan now again. Yeah. It's fun to go to the games and everything like that, but am I a diehard Jets fan and watch all the games? Definitely not. Like I said, basketball is my thing. So
an NBA, do you watch college or are you just NBA guy?
No, I will watch some college, especially watch the March Madness and especially down to the Final Four. And we've been to Final Four and a finals game back when it was in Minneapolis in 2019. Cool. Oh, that was something else. That's a lot of pretty crazy fans. So pretty cool. But it was a bucket list thing to go and do, and we managed to get on the lottery for tickets. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. But, U.S. college sports are just a whole different thing than here in Canada. So,
yeah, U Sport, not the same. Not the same.
No,
It's
no.
good. I'm glad it's there, but it's not the same. Okay. Let's, we're talking about the markets here. And yesterday I got a question from an audience member. Very simple. We were talking about canola and China and all the things that are going on. This audience member asked, should I plant canola in 2026? What do you say, Brian Voth?
I thought you said it was simple. And as soon as you say China and whatnot, that's why I kind of laugh about that, because that is just how up in the air this is right now. And if China doesn't come back to the table, we're going to have a lot of canola sitting around. We can't replace that demand on its own through anywhere else. Same time, they can't buy canola in the same volumes that they would like to from anywhere else either. So, it just feels like who's going to blink first on this whole thing, and yeah, they're starting to buy some cargoes from Australia, and that will displace some demand. But, Australia's crop is, 6.5 million tons versus our 20. Like, they can't. And historically, China has bought somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.5 million tons of canola from us. Well, clearly Australia can't ship that much canola there. And if they do, well, then there's a big void somewhere else. And the only ones that can fill it would be us. So there's a lot at play here in terms of just the trade aspect. And unfortunately, it's political. And that makes that really hard to say. Now, if this gets resolved, and China does come back to the table and starts buying, and this is also assuming that China doesn't backdoor canola into the country through other, neighboring countries.
I was just going to bring this up. Like, all of a sudden the UAE is like, oh man, we love Canadian canola.
Well, or, what was it? A couple of weeks ago, there was an announcement that Vietnam had bought canola from Canada. I'm like, when was the last time we shipped canola to Vietnam? And guess who shares a border, right? So, but assuming that they don't buy in some big form or whatever, then, are we going to see the $15+ canola? Probably not, without some kind of a disaster somewhere anyways. But if China steps back in and buys again, well, then those numbers are on the table. And, at $15 canola on average yields, it will make sense. Canola is still one of the most consistently profitable crops in Western Canada. I mean, you can love it or hate it, I know, and depending on where you are, obviously in those dry years, it was really, really poor. But on average, I would say it's still one of the most consistently profitable crops that gets grown in Western Canada. But it does also seem like we've hit a limit in terms of acres and production. We've kind of capped out at somewhere between 21 to 23 million acres. And barring genetic changes that up those yield potentials, our production number is kind of capped out, I think. Our crush number keeps going up. It remains to be seen how many more crush plants will get going. But that's also a political one, because so much of our canola oil, if the bulk of it, goes south of the border into the renewable fuel side. And now there's political stuff in the way on that one. And it looks like canola oil is going to be out of the crosshairs, but that's one stroke of a pen and that all changes again. So it's a this is why I say I thought it was a simple question, but there's so many pieces involved.
Well, I've said this before, is that I think if you asked a lot of people in Western Canada, hey, who's our number one customer for canola, they would say, oh, it's China, but it's actually not. It's the U.S. because of that biofuel demand, right? And we're fighting a fight there too when it comes to that 50% of the RIN value that they're talking about from the budget reconciliation bill. So that there's a fight on, to make that equal as well. So canola definitely facing some challenges, but relatively speaking, the price, it's fallen off as of late, but the last 12 months performance is only like down about 5%.
I was going to say, like, the thing that maybe for better or worse, but short-term memories when it comes to markets is the last time we were at these values was like 6 or 7 months ago. Like, it's not that long ago that we were down at 600, 580 canola, like last winter for sure. And, it gets to be very doom and gloom and whatnot. And that's kind of where it feels like things are at again. But that's when I always think back to that saying, like, things are always the most bearish at the bottom. And now, farmers some of them are panicking and dumping canola because it's like, oh, well, it's $13 or it's $12.50 or whatever the number is where they are. And like, well, I better pitch it before it gets even worse. And, historically, that's oftentimes when things tend to bottom. Also, seasonally, this is the time when we typically put in a bottom as well.
Yeah.
Just kind of during or post-harvest. So
okay, so keeping with the China theme, what are you more optimistic about? Are you more optimistic about soybeans or canola? Because both have China challenges, and maybe the soybean export one out of the U.S. is maybe even a bit of a worst case scenario in terms of there's been no buying. But which one do you feel better about?
Oh boy, that's
I know. Isn't that fun? These are the questions I get from audiences all the time.
No, well, I mean, and they're good questions. Unfortunately, they're kind of both in the same arena here. And like I said, you look at these political problems, and they do kind of center around one country. Now, again, China is seemingly going out of their way to not buy U.S. beans, and so far they've managed to get away with it because there's been big crops coming out of South America, obviously, even though they're literally paying a premium on versus U.S. beans.
They are.
They're, I assume, trying to prove a point, and probably working to an extent. But now think back to 2018, the last time this happened, and look at the direction that U.S. soybeans ended up going. And it would not surprise me one bit that all of a sudden U.S. soybeans are going to end down in Argentina or in Brazil like they did in 2018, because South America shipped out so much that all of a sudden it's like their crushers were like, hold on, we need this too.
Yeah.
And so we ended up, or not we, the U.S. ended up shipping soybeans down into Argentina. And I mean, I don't know if it was ever actually proven or not. There was also talk that there was U.S. cargoes of soybeans that went to a port in Brazil for a night and then on their way to China kind of thing too, because where did the boat come from? Right?
Just small sleepover.
Yeah, exactly. It's all semantics, right? But that's the problem with the political side. Like, how do you predict when someone's going to agree to something, when someone's going to back down and say, okay, like, this is enough, we need this stuff, that sort of thing. And that's what makes this part so challenging, is trying to factor that in. It's not just a normal S&D anymore. Now it's what's the political whim of the day.
So before we wrap up corn, demand's been very strong. It's a different story there. The U.S. yields are immense. I don't know. Let's just say it's 185. There's quite a bit of carryout, but demand has been good. What's your thoughts on the corn market?
Yeah, like the current number, the fact that we've penciled in this 187 yield number already, and record acres. Like, I find this one really, really bizarre. How did everything go that right that you can have record planted acres, or at least going back, almost 100 years, and a record yield? Like,
well, the acre numbers was really surprised the market.
Well, for sure.
In that August WASDE, that was really what, or was it August? Yeah.
Even when you think about, okay, to get that many acres in, you're pulling a lot of, fringe marginal land into production now. That's not where you're pulling off the 185 bushel corn either. So the fact that you've got record acres and a record yield combined is really, I don't know. I look at it as a little bit suspect, because how does that work unless if everything went absolutely right from a weather perspective? But even if it did, and you've got this 2.1 or now maybe 2.3 billion bushel carryout number, yeah, it's more than enough, but it's not horrendously burdensome. Also, keep in mind, last year at this time, the balance sheet for the 24 crop year also was at 2.1, was down as low as 1.3, and now they've changed it to 1.5, give or take. I'm just rounding numbers. But so the fact that we're at a 2.1 or 2.2 right now, that is a lot of room to come down because, with corn prices where they are, basically bottomed out at the same level last year at this time. And that is going to generate even more demand. So prices are doing what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to generate demand. And now if you look forward to 2026, like, there's almost no way that corn acres don't end up going down next year. Like, they have to. Well, I shouldn't say they have to.
Oh, be careful. Like, I'm gonna keep receipts on this. If the soybean export situation with China is not sorted out, I couldn't you see that some of those acres moving out of beans and into corn?
I mean, I guess they could, if we're not paying any attention to rotations or anything like that. But then also, I'm assuming we're not going to be penciling in a 187 or 185 yield either then.
Yeah.
But,
and on this year's crop, there are analysts that are down in the 170s.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, I don't bother trying to put an estimate on it because I'm not going to say I'm well enough informed on that scale to put a number on it. But yeah, I mean, I know I've seen a lot coming down into that 184, 185 range, and yeah, some down on the lower end at 170s. I mean, you hear some of these disease issues and yields that are, running 30, 50 or bushels below the non-disease stuff. Well, you take the example of a drainage ditch on the case southern Manitoba, right? Like we deal with too much moisture, so drainage ditches tend to drown out. It's really hard to recover back from losing an acre or 2 or 3 in a drainage ditch to back to your average yield. Right now, take that multiplied times 97.3 million acres or whatever it is, and I'm just questioning how we're going to end up with a yield like that on that many acres.
Yeah, no, really so.
It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But nonetheless, like you said, the demand has been phenomenal, and the price is obviously encouraging buying. The price, theoretically, minus the yield side, should be discouraging production, unless if you are taking the 185 yield times, in southern Manitoba, let's say $5, $5.25 corn. Well, it does pencil out really well. And so the acre side next year, I suspect it will end up coming down, but like you said, it'll depend on this resolution with China on the soybean side and what this price ratio does. Like this is where looking at that December corn, November soybean spread comes into play, or that ratio, to kind of get an idea as to what is the market telling farmers to do. But now throw in subsidies and you skew this whole picture again.
Yeah, we're still waiting for the details on that. But some people are saying about $105 an acre for soybeans, which is pretty much a backfill on the USDA projected loss.
Well, and just like in 2018, soybean prices dropped down into the 8s, let's say, and the market was telling U.S. farmers, don't grow soybeans. But then if you go throw subsidies into this, that is skewing what the market is trying to tell you to do. And now you take the risk of just making a problem even worse. The market's telling you don't grow soybeans because we have too much, but the government's going to give you a subsidy to grow them without buying coming back. Like now you start swimming in these things kind of thing. So that's where I'm not a big fan of subsidies from a marketing perspective, because it really skews the economics of what the market's actually trying to tell you to do. But I guess we'll see where they go with that one. So,
hey, Brian, really appreciate it. If somebody wants more information on Intellifarm, where do they go?
Intellifarm.ca is probably the easiest way. You'll find all of our contact information there. You can shoot us email, that sort of thing. Or our phone numbers are on there too if you feel like texting or calling.
If you have any feedback on today's program, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Or, of course, you can always call or text the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. We'll chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.